I think many a times speaking to people is taken very lightly. And one of the things that we've really been trying to do, and Equity Week is one of those, is actually to think about how can this conversation be structured in a way that everyone can contribute into the discussion of how we reach some level of equity as we go. And so opening up that discussion to more people gives you more ideas about how to deal with it. And I think over time that will become very central in this country, especially with devolution, because we are supposed to be having these discussions between government and citizens, between citizens and non-state actors, like where IBP sits. And I think for me the biggest one is just to open up that space, open up the space of how CRA makes its decision around its formula, open up the space about how the national government makes its decision around how to distribute infrastructure programs across the country.
Sometimes not taken very seriously, the fact that the citizens actually come and speak to the issues and the needs they have is already an indicator that water is a problem in this ward, security is a problem in this ward, malnutrition is a problem in this ward. But then counties also have an opportunity, and they do, of combining what the people say with the data they have, whether from the national government through the KNBS or even by generating. And you remember one of the conversations was, can counties start actually generating their own data?
I would start by saying a quote by Anthony T. Hinks, okay? So Anthony said, when you are at loss of words, you draw a picture, right? And so I think when we can discuss inequalities here today, we can talk about, agreeing, disagreeing, what inequality means, whether that is equality or, whatever, or that's the best way to address inequality. But when we're at the end of, we've, exhausted the discussion, we can draw a picture and say, well, this is how it looks like. So each county will form a group. So those are the people from counties, county officials, civil society from those counties, but there are some of us who are not coming from any of these counties. What is going to happen is that we are going to choose the counties that we would like to join. And so the discussion is really about what does inequality look like in our counties. And so that's what the picture that I want us to paint. And I want us to look at 3 service areas. The first one is roads. How is our road network in the different counties? Okay? The second is access to water services. And when we talk about water, we talk about improved sources of water. We're not talking about people going to the river and fetching the water and using the households, but talking about improved sources of water. The third one is health. Okay? How is health facilities and services distributed in the county? Some wards have more facilities than others. And what I want us to do in the groups, the wards or the part of the county that is poorly developed, we want us to paint it red. Then there's the second part, which is fairly developed, okay? Not bad as, somewhere else. Then you paint that black. The third one is developed. So I want us to paint that green.
This is Samburu County. You can see we've painted entirely red. Yeah, we are asking for 50 shades of red, but we couldn't get. So just to paint where Samburu County is, we border Turkana on the upper side, Marsabit, Isiolo, Laikipia, and Baringo. We have 3 constituencies in Samburu. We have Samburu West, where the county headquarters is. This is where Maralal is. We have Samburu North. Baragoi is famously known here. We have Samburu East, where Wamba is, Wamba sub-county. We have 0% tarmac road. As you can see, there's no road at all. Luckily, Lapset passed here from Isiolo through going to Marsabit. So this is the only place you can say a road is tarmacked in Samburu County by luck or something. The entire place is not tarmacked. A road was recently launched here that's supposed to go to Maralal, but it was launched by first Moi, Kibaki, and recently Uhuru also launched. So we don't know who will ever implement it. In terms of healthcare, we have only 2 main hospitals. Wamba Mission Hospital, which was built by missionaries, and Maralal Referral Hospital, poorly equipped. This is the government-owned hospital. This is much better because it's owned by missionaries. Right now, the county government has a little share. In Baragoi, we don't have an hospital at all. Here, actually, this is where we border Tiati. For Baringo people, we border Tiati constituency here. And on the other side, we border Turkana, a lot of cattle rustling and all that. We have 16 wards. This little green here is a ward called Losuk Ward and Poro Ward, where agriculture happens. And this is where we have a little water, but not piped or anything, just by God's own ways. We have streams and rivers. We only have one dam in Maralal that supplies water to the county headquarters that was constructed during the colonial times. The county government recently launched another dam, and that's the only water we have. Other parts, there's no borehole, there's really nothing. So Samburu County is definitely just red. Thank you.
There's need for a serious dialogue about what is priority. And that requires the ability to be able to have a political conversation, to be able to give trade-offs about what is. Not that it is not important, but this is a question of prioritizing. So that we are saying we can do a dispensary there, but for that other ward, what we need is not a dispensary, but actually is to employ doctors and nurses, and that is of priority. But in that other ward, actually the water project is of priority, because what we are seeing is this kind of mass equal distribution kind of conversation, and that was it came out in Elgeyo Marakwet, where they were saying that most of the interventions have been dividing money equally across wards, And therefore, of course, what that means is that when you give a ward in the city and a ward deep in the rural area the same amount of money, the priorities are different.
So how are we going to get from where we started to where we want to go if we don't discuss these things? And I started by saying this is not a highly technical subject because that's often the answer. Well, it's a highly technical subject, so we leave it to policymakers. I do not believe that that is correct. And the motivation behind Equity Week is that these are not highly technical conversations. There are conversations that require us to engage with data and numbers and policy. And that is something that the university is well placed to help us to support. But that does not make them highly technical. We can all participate in these conversations.
As much as we have an equitable formula of taking these resources downwards, what is the best process? How do we take it? Because we can still say we want to take development to every corner of the world. And eventually we take 100,000 to every village. And that 100,000 is not even enough to construct a water tank. So as much as we are discussing that we need to distribute resources equitably, then to what level should we do it? Should we spread thin? Should we target a small, one project in the ward? And again, we target where in the ward that will, or which project that will make everyone feel devolution or feel these resources.
We must have wholesome discussions where we bring, like what happened in Elgeyo Marakwet, where we bring people who are aware of their needs, okay? And then we bring academia who have done research and, for example, can help with data. And then we bring policymakers and say, look, we need to resolve the water situation in our county. Data shows that, for example, Baringo has very poor access to improved water sources. So the need for discussion, to keep the discussion alive. And I know equity is just 1 week, but there was that appreciation that we need to sit down and bring out issues so that we can discuss how can we resolve inequalities with the limited resources that we have.
The space around the discussion on inequalities need to be opened. The assumption that inequalities and discussion about revenue distribution is a very technical subject that should be handled by technical people. We totally don't agree with that because from our own experience and working with very many communities in the last 3 years around this issue, we have evidence, even in video, of people actually having this discussion and making it look easy. So as we go forward, there is need to keep opening up the space and making the discussion a bit more public so that you have more views and people can better understand the decisions that are being made that are supposed to address the inequalities that affect them. Because the inequalities affect the poor in Kibra, affect the poor somewhere in Nyalenda, in Kisumu. So if you're going to help those people, why not involve them in the discussion? And they can have that discussion.
I have 2 quick questions, and I especially would like Elgeyo Marakwet to share the experience on this. When you speak about equity, we know when it comes to budget work, the county assembly plays a critical role of approving budgets. So how did Elgeyo Marakwet come to convince members of county assembly to pass an equity law that would, because in our county in Baringo, the executive is having challenge to convince the county assembly that there is need for equity law that would see some counties, some wards receive lesser allocation as to what they are receiving currently. So that's the big impediment. And then the second question is, as counties, how do we prepare citizens to appreciate the place of equity in good governance? For example, are we disseminating the data that we are talking about here in terms of access to water, access to education, and so on and so forth?
That how did we convince the county assembly to come up with or to pass the Equitable Development Act? And I actually want to say that this is an act which started from the county assembly. It was sponsored by the former member of county assembly of Kaptarakwa Ward, and it came as a result of an equal distribution of resources from our first financial year. When we did our budgets, 2013-2014 financial year, we realized that we could not balance the county the way it is required because, one, we were new and we didn't have all the information about these counties. So my suggestion is that what needs to be done is the county executive, county assembly, together with the citizens of the county should sit down, identify their needs in a roundtable meeting. And I believe what we've done today is actually what we should be taken to the next level. The charts which we painted today, I think that should be the starting point. Let the citizens, the members of county assembly, the governor and all the executive sit down, waweke, they prioritize areas which need development in the county. And then from there, because I believe even without the act, so long as the 3 teams, the citizens, the executive and county assembly sit together, they will be able to come out with a very nice way of ensuring that there is equity in the county. I think another thing is how do we let the members of public appreciate equity? And I must say that there are a number of challenges because as much as we try to ensure that there is equity, there are also those people who are, or there are needs which will not be catered for. And for example, Elgeyo Marakwet, the biggest challenge we've been having is, why is it that Elgeyo Marakwet doesn't have big projects like other counties? And that comes as a result of trying to ensure that there is equity at the expense of flagship projects. Because I think when you look at other counties, they've done big projects, but Elgeyo Marakwet, we've tried to reach every corner, and that thinly spreading has affected the flagship projects. So I think there is a lot of, we need to have a lot of engagements so that it reaches a point that even the members of public are the ones who prioritize flagship project rather than every village having their own project.